So I'm Bridget, and I did the release of a basketball or basketball shot. So this is me and Kate. I'm on the left, and she is on the right. So here I compared the. So this is the preparatory phase, and here I compared the width of our feet as well as the knee angle. So she does have her feet are wider apart, and I have a more staggered stance. And Article 5 goes over foot placement, but it concludes that it actually doesn't make a difference. However, most athletes do prefer to do a staggered stance, which is what student one, me, that's what I had. But also having a wider stance helps with balance more. And then student one has more of a dip in her angle of her elbow, which could lead to a more accurate shot. And Article 3 discusses that. Um, so as you can see, the ball is lower. It's by my ear compared to Kate. Hers is kind of above her head. So that affects the angle. Hers is more closer to 90 degree and mine's like lower. And then my knee is more bent than hers. So that was the preparatory phase. And then the release of the basketball. So at the beginning of the movement, the ball is being released at the same time. The knee angles were different between the students, which will affect how they jump. And since their knee angles are different, this means that their knee valgus will be different. And Article 1 discusses that. And then prior to this frame, no student dramatically dipped the ball. However, like I just discussed in the preparatory phase, student one did have a lower ball release. It was more by her ear rather than above her head, which is where student two's was. So that had an effect on the angle of our arms. And if one student dipped the ball more, I could have compared to see the difference in angles, but I think it was more just where I started with the ball rather than a dip. And student two had a larger arm angle, which meant her arms were higher up than student one. Um, so you could see like her arms go higher, but they're also out more. Mine are more up rather than out, but hers are more extended. So then the follow through, so the angles of the students' arms are similar. However, the distance between their ears and hands are different. So I measured from their ears to their hands, and Kate, student two, hers was a longer distance than mine. And I think this is because, like I said in the previous, uh, the release of the basketball, it was because her hands are further out rather than up. As you could see, mine are more above my head. They're more up than out. So I think that's what's created the longer distance. And then when comparing the angle of their arms, student one had a bigger angle than student two. And this is because, like I just said, student one's arms is higher. Um, so that's why there's a longer measurement. And then I also compared just their torso length to compare it to the length between their arm and their hand. And mine was actually longer than hers, as you could say. So, um, so that was a follow through. So now this is me and McKenna. So this is the preparatory phase. So here I compared the students' elbow angle, the knee angle, and torso length. So student one has more of a bent elbow and has more of a bent knee than student two. So student two has a smaller torso than student one. And I compared the heights of both students, and they both would be more forwards, meaning the knee angle would be highest for both of them when comparing to guards. But however, their knee angles are very different. So the angle of their arm will affect their follow through. So as you could see, I compared the angle of their arms. Mine is more bent than hers, and student one also has more of a dip than student two. So, um, like I mentioned with Kate's, mine is more dipped, it's more at my ear compared to McKenna's. Hers is more above her head, and mine is lower, which makes the angle less. So, and the knee angles as well. Mine are more bent than McKenna's, so the angle is 120.2 and 142.7. And then I just compared the torsos as well, and mine is longer than hers. So here, the angle of the arms stayed the same, as student one had a much larger angle. So as you can see here, when comparing them, I did it from here to their hand. So due to the larger angle, student one has a much slower release centers have an optimal ball release compared to guards, and when comparing their height, student two is slightly taller. So also when it comes to the knee angle, it's also higher in guards and centers and forwards, and student one has a higher knee angle than student two, and that is discussed in Article 4. And then student one clearly has a slower ball release, which is the reason for a higher elbow angle, as well as they have more jump in this frame. So as you can see, my feet are lifted off the ground compared to McKenna's, hers are not. And the jump and the more like elbow angle is a slower release because I kind of like went down and really used my elbow and jumped up compared to McKenna. So this is the follow through. So here I compared the measurement from their ears to their hands. So student one has a higher measurement than student two. As you could see, it's not by much. So this is because student one also has a higher angle in her arm than student two. So I measured the angles here, as you could see in green. And then student one's arms is higher, while student two's arm is more out, creating less of a distance between her arm. So this is also what happened with me, with Kate and I. So my hands are more above my head up here, while hers are more out. But I think this also has to do with arm length, and that's why mine is bigger, but not by much. And then student two has wider feet compared to student one, and also student two has a wider knee angle, which is different than the previous frames. So that is it.